Okay, let's unpack this. I mean, the letter S is basically the biggest hypocrite in the entire English language.
Oh, absolutely. It is completely contradictory when you really look at it.
Right, because you attach it to a noun and boom, it multiplies it. Like apple becomes apples. A single object just becomes a basketful.
Yeah, exactly. It adds volume.
But then you attach that exact same letter to a verb and suddenly it isolates it. I mean, the plural they go shrinks down to the singular he goes. Or they agree becomes she agrees. Why does the most common letter in English suffer from this, like, massive split personality?
Well, it creates a huge amount of cognitive friction. Our brains are hardwired, really from our earliest interactions with language, to equate that S sound at the end of a word with multiplicity, with volume.
Right, more than one.
Exactly. So when verbs come along and completely invert that logic, it forces our mental processor to essentially run in reverse.
Which is exhausting.
It really is. It's incredibly counterintuitive, which is basically why it forms the absolute bedrock of so much grammatical confusion.
And untangling that confusion is the mission for today's deep dive. We are digging into a highly comprehensive masterclass by English with Ronnie Mam, and it focuses entirely on the mechanics of subject-verb agreement.
Which is such a crucial topic.
It really is. So for you listening, whether you are prepping for a high-stakes exam like the CDS, NDA, banking, or SSC, or maybe you just want absolute precision in how you communicate, understanding this hidden architecture is just non-negotiable.
Yeah, completely.
We're bypassing all that dry textbook jargon today to look at the actual physics of how sentences hold themselves together.
And, I mean, the stakes on this are genuinely high, especially in those competitive arenas. Ronnie Mam highlights that if you're facing a paper with, say, 20 error-spotting questions—
which is pretty standard, right?
Oh, very standard. You can reliably predict 3 or 4 of them are going to be subject-verb agreement traps.
Wow, just sitting there waiting for you.
Exactly. Examiners love this concept because it ruthlessly exposes whether a candidate actually understands the structural mechanics of meaning or, and this happens a lot, if they're just trusting their ear and guessing based on what, sounds right in passing.
Because what sounds right is so often just an optical illusion.
Precisely.
So to understand how to spot those illusions, we really have to start with the foundational philosophy of the language. The masterclass frames this almost mythically.
I love how she sets this up.
Yeah, it's great. Like, think of it as an ancient, unbreakable pact between the subject and the verb. The terms of this agreement are simply, where you are, I will be.
Singular subject demands a singular verb. Plural subject demands a plural verb.
Right. It's a relationship of absolute grammatical loyalty.
The entire sentence relies on that structural integrity just to function. If you break it, the meaning falls apart.
I always picture it like a tandem bicycle. You've got the subject in the front seat steering, the verb in the back seat providing the power.
That's a great visual.
Thanks. For the bike to move forward, both riders have to be pedaling at the exact same rhythm, right? If the subject is pedaling a singular rhythm and the verb is pedaling a plural rhythm—
the chain just snaps.
Exactly. The chain snaps, the sentence collapses. But wait, I have to push back here. If this ancient pact of grammatical loyalty is so strict, how do you explain you?
Ah, the famous you.
Right, because you can be one single person standing right in front of me, but I am forced to use a plural verb. I mean, I say you are, I never say you is.
Right, that quirk is actually a grammatical scar left over from history.
The scar!
Yeah. Centuries ago, English actually had a singular pronoun for addressing one person, and that was thou. Thou art.
Oh, Shakespeare stuff, right.
Exactly. You was strictly plural. It was used for addressing a group, or sometimes used formally to show deep respect, kind of like vous in French.
Okay, that makes sense.
But over time, thou dropped out of common speech entirely. And so you was basically forced to do double duty. It took over the singular role, but, and this is the key, it stubbornly refused to give up its plural verb.
Wow, so it just kept the old verb.
It did. So now we are stuck with this permanent mismatch where a single person demands a crowd's verb.
That is wild. It's literally just a historical hangover.
Yep, pretty much.
But, okay, what about I? Because I is undeniably singular. It's just me. And most of the time it behaves, right? Like I was at the store. But the moment we start daydreaming, the rule breaks.
The subjunctive mood.
Yeah, if I say, if I were a bird, I'm suddenly throwing a plural verb at a singular subject. Why do we say if I were instead of if I was?
Because you are actively signaling to the listener that you have departed from reality.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, by intentionally breaking that fundamental pact By pairing the singular I with the plural were, you are creating this deliberate friction. That structural friction warns the listener's brain, hey, do not take this as a fact. We are now in the realm of the hypothetical.
We literally break the grammar to show we are breaking reality.
Exactly. And what stands out to you about how easily we accept these imaginary exceptions when we speak, we don't even flinch when we hear someone say, if I were a billionaire.
We don't. It sounds totally normal.
Right. It proves that language isn't just this, like, rigid mathematical formula. It's a living tool that we bend to accommodate human imagination.
Man, that is brilliant. But okay, let's pull it back from the hypothetical into the very real traps sitting on those exam papers.
Good idea.
If the basic singular to singular, plural to plural pact is the foundation, examiners clearly have to use smoke and mirrors to hide it.
Oh, they do, all the time.
And the chief architects of those illusions seem to be prepositions. Words like, of, in, during.
Yeah, prepositions are highly dangerous in an exam context.
Yeah.
Because they introduce extra nouns into the sentence. Those extra nouns are called objects of the preposition, and they are, critically, never the main subject. Never. But they are intentionally placed right next to the verb to hijack your brain's natural tendency to just match the verb to the closest noun.
Like, the knowledge of languages is important. That's a prime example from the material.
A classic trap.
Right, because if you are skimming, your eye catches the plural word languages sitting right next to the blank space for the verb, and your instinct just screams to drop the plural verb are in there. Languages are important.
But what's fascinating here is how you can use this knowledge as a tactical weapon. When you identify a prepositional phrase, you can just conceptually draw a red line through it.
Just cross it right out.
Exactly. The verb is entirely indifferent to the object of a preposition. So by crossing out of languages, the illusion just evaporates. You are left with the core subject, the knowledge.
And knowledge is an abstract, singular concept.
Right. Therefore, the verb locks into singular is the knowledge is important.
It's basically X-ray vision for sentence structure. I mean, think about it. A gang of thieves was seen. Cross out the prepositional trap of thieves, and you are left staring at the singular collective noun gang. A gang was seen.
It works perfectly.
The box of chocolates is missing. Cross out of chocolates, and obviously the singular box is missing. It feels invincible.
No.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
The fraction paradox.
Yes. Just when you think you can blindly slash through every preposition, the material throws the fraction paradox at us.
It's the examiner's ultimate countermeasure. If a candidate is just, blindly crossing out everything after of, this is exactly where they stumble.
Right, because look at these two sentences. 1/3 of the pillar is rotten and 1/3 of the pillars are rotten.
Very different outcomes.
Totally. In both cases, we have a prepositional phrase starting with of. But in the first one, the verb is singular is, and in the second one, it's plural are. If we were applying our new X-ray vision, we would cross out of the pillar and just be left with 1/3. So why does the rule suddenly flip upside down here?
Well, because a fraction, or a percentage, for that matter, has no inherent grammatical mass.
Okay, what does that mean?
It cannot act as an independent subject because it is mathematically impossible to have a third of a verb. It's just a modifier. So when a sentence leads with a fraction, the prepositional illusion shatters. The fraction forces you to look through it, past the preposition, to the noun that is actually being fractured.
Oh, wow. So the noun after the preposition actually becomes the dictator of the verb.
Exactly.
So if we are taking 1/3 of a single solitary pillar, we're still dealing with a singular mass. 1/3 of the pillar is. But if we take 1/3 of an entire colonnade of pillars, we're dealing with multiple distinct objects. 1/3 of the pillars are.
Right. Meaning dictates the structure. It forces you to visualize the physical reality of what is being described.
That is so cool.
And speaking of visualizing, we really need to transition to a different kind of trap now. We just looked at structural illusions, but the source material spends significant time on psychological illusions.
Psychological illusions.
Yeah, words that paint a distinctly plural picture in your mind, but grammatically they demand singular grammar.
The ultimate tricksters, each and every, when I say every student in the auditorium, my brain instantly renders an image of a massive crowd. It feels inherently, undeniably plural.
It does paint a crowd, but grammatically each and every act like a laser scanner. They refuse to acknowledge the crowd as a single mass.
A laser scanner, I like that.
Right. They force the verb to break that crowd down into individual pixels, scanning them one by one by one. And because they isolate the individuals, the verb remains uncompromisingly singular.
The masterclass makes a really subtle but honestly vital distinction between the two, though. They aren't just synonyms you can swap at will.
No, they definitely aren't.
It's purely an adjective. It has to attach itself to a noun, like every student is present. You cannot, under any circumstances, say every of the students.
Because an adjective can't bear the weight of being the subject on its own.
Right.
Each, however, is structurally versatile. It operates perfectly well as an adjective. Each boy is present. But it can also function as a pronoun, standing independently, which gives you the grammatical green light to say, each of the boys.
But notice what happens there. Even when you say each of the boys, where the word boys is glaringly, loudly plural, the verb does not flinch.
Nope.
It stays singular. Each of the boys is present. It's as if each throws a singular force field over the entire rest of the sentence.
That's a great way to put it.
And this applies to that whole family of indefinite pronouns too, right? Everybody, nobody, somebody, nothing. They all command a singular verb. Nobody is home, nothing is wrong.
Exactly. They treat the unknown or undefined subject as a single unified void or entity. But there is another word in this category that creates an even deeper trap.
Neither.
Yes. The material drops this example. Neither of the 5 accused was present.
Let's unpack that one.
Okay, so my immediate reflex is to check the verb. Neither takes a singular verb, was is singular, so the sentence seems perfectly structurally sound.
And that is the exact reflex the examiner is counting on. They want you focusing so intently on the verb agreement that you completely ignore the fact that the subject itself is mathematically illegal.
Illegal because of the number 5.
Exactly. Neither is basically an environmental audit word, strictly reserved for a binary reality. It can only ever evaluate a choice between exactly 2 things.
Right, 2.
The moment you introduce 5 accused people, the word neither instantly corrupts the logic of the sentence. To negate a group of more than 2, you are forced to discard neither entirely and substitute the word none.
So it has to be none of the 5 accused was present.
Precisely. Man, we have to constantly audit the numbers in our environment before we choose our pronouns.
It's exhausting, but necessary.
And I guess it works the same way for positive choices, too. Like, either is strictly for evaluating 2 options. If you have a menu with 3 or 4 choices, either is mathematically invalid. You have to swap it for any.
The precision required is immense. But let's scale up the complexity a bit. We've conquered individual tricky words. What happens to the sentence architecture when you have multiple, entirely different subjects actively competing for control of the one verb?
Oh, the grammatical tug-of-war.
Right.
This brings us to conjunctions. The joining words. The mechanics here are just fascinating.
Very much so.
If you join 2 subjects with phrases like as well as, with, along with, or including, the sentence sets up a strict hierarchy. The verb completely ignores whatever comes after that comma and pledges allegiance only to the very first subject.
Yeah, it treats those secondary phrases not as equal partners, but as hitchhikers.
Hitchhiking.
They are just along for the ride. So in the sentence, Ram, as well as his friends, is ready, the plural friends have 0 influence over the engine of the sentence. The verb is matches the singular Ram driving the car.
But the referee changes the rules completely if we use different conjunctions. What if the subjects are joined by either dot or neither daughter or not only but also?
Those specific pairings invoke the rule of proximity. The hierarchy is abolished entirely. The verb simply matches whichever subject happens to be physically closest to it on the page.
Okay, so neither Ram nor his friends are ready. The verb is parked right next to the plural friends, so it adopts a plural state.
Exactly.
But if we just flip the seating arrangement, neither his friends nor Ram, now the singular Ram is closest, so the verb snaps back to singular. Neither his friends nor Ram is ready. I mean, it feels strangely arbitrary. Why does distance dictate the rule here?
Well, it actually mirrors the limitations of human working memory.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When you use a construction like either A or B, the brain hasn't resolved reality yet. It is simultaneously holding 2 alternate realities in its buffer.
Wow, okay.
To avoid cognitive overload while processing the sentence in real time, the language simply allows the verb to latch on to whichever reality it bumps into first. It's basically an efficiency mechanism.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. It's a cognitive pressure release valve. Now contrast that with the most basic conjunction we have. And, usually and is a synthesizer. It takes 2 singular things, combines their mass, and creates a plural. Graham and his friends are ready.
Usually, yes. But examiners will test you on conceptual unity.
Right, like the proverb, slow and steady wins the race. We don't say win the race because slow and steady aren't viewed as two separate traits competing with each other. They fuse into one singular, unified archetype of a person.
Yes.
Same with horse and carriage is a cheap mode of transport. It's not two separate objects on the road. The mind perceives them as one single vehicle.
Absolutely. But let me throw a more complex tug-of-war at you, though. What happens when you have a positive subject and a negative subject in the exact same sentence?
Okay, the material uses this example. The thief, and not his sons. The thief is singular, the sons are plural, both are technically subjects, right? But one is affirmed and the other is explicitly negated. Who wins that fight?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, human language naturally prioritizes presence over absence. It fundamentally prioritizes what is over what is not. Therefore, whenever a positive subject and a negative subject are joined, the verb will always, without exception, follow the positive subject.
The negative subject just becomes grammatically dead weight.
Completely.
So the thief, and not his sons, was present. The singular positive thief entirely overrules the plural negative sons. We are literally letting the verb follow the physical reality of who is actually in the room.
It is deeply logical. And that logic leads perfectly into the most advanced tier of Ronnie Mam's masterclass, the contextual chameleons.
Oh, these are fun.
We are moving beyond rigid mechanical rules into territory where words completely mutate their grammatical identity based on nothing but the speaker's specific intent.
These are wild. Let's look at a number of versus the number of. If I look out a window and say a number of students are waiting, I have to use a plural verb.
Right.
But if I change one single tiny article and say the number of students is 50, it suddenly demands a singular verb. Why does swapping A for the flip the polarity of the entire sentence?
Because changing that article changes your mental focus entirely. A number of is just an indefinite quantifier. It's a fancy way of saying many. Your focus is still on the physical crowd of students standing there.
The actual people.
Yes. But the number of shifts the focus entirely away from the human beings. You are now talking about an abstract data point on a spreadsheet. The number itself, the figure is 50, and the figure is singular.
So the intent dictates the math. It's the same reason we can't be tricked by nouns that just happen to end in the letter S.
Right, like titles.
Exactly. Book titles like Arabian Nights or Gulliver's Travels. Yes, they end in S, but in physical reality, they represent one single bound book sitting on a shelf. Or illnesses like measles or diabetes. The S is just spelling. The reality is a singular medical condition.
It requires the speaker to constantly map the word back to its physical manifestation in the real world. But the true chameleons in this material are words like mathematics, statistics, and wages. These words undergo a complete metamorphosis depending on the context.
Let's test the metamorphoses. Mathematics. If I'm talking about mathematics as a broad academic discipline, it is singular. Mathematics is a difficult subject.
Simple enough, but if you review an accountant's ledger and say, his mathematics are flawed.
In that context, mathematics no longer represents the abstract discipline. It represents the actual physical calculations he scratched out on the paper. Because there are multiple distinct calculations, the word fractures into a plural state. His calculations are flawed.
Exactly. Now apply that to statistics as an academic course.
Singular. Statistics is taught on Tuesdays.
But as a collection of demographic information.
Plural. The statistics show a sharp decline in sales. You are no longer talking about the discipline. You are looking at hundreds of individual data points.
You've got it.
And the most striking one is wages. If you mean a daily or weekly salary, like the physical money handed over, it is plural. His daily wages are very low. But if you use it in the older philosophical sense of a consequence...
Like the famous proverb, the wages of sin is death.
Exactly. Wages there just means the ultimate singular outcome. The result is death. So what does this all mean? When you step back and look at these chameleons, you realize that grammar isn't just a list of arbitrary punishments designed by examiners.
Definitely not.
It is a highly sensitive mirror reflecting what the speaker is actually focusing their mind on. Are they focusing on the collective abstract whole, or are they zooming in on the granular individual pieces?
This raises an important question for anyone trying to master communication. Are you just blindly assembling words in a line, hoping they sound correct together, or are you constructing an architecture that perfectly matches your intent?
That's the real test.
Subject-verb agreement forces you to clarify your exact meaning to yourself before the sentence even leaves your mouth.
And it's been an intense dissection of the English machine today. Just to briefly recap the core insights we pulled from Ronnie Mam's masterclass, we learned that prepositions create optical illusions, and conceptually crossing out the object is your best tactical defense.
A lifesaver on exams.
Truly. We discovered that words like each and every act as mental laser scanners, stubbornly isolating crowds into singular individuals. We saw how the rule of proximity prevents working memory overload by snapping the verb to the nearest subject. And finally, we tracked the chameleon words that demand we map our grammar to our physical reality.
And, mastering these mechanics is obviously the key to clearing those error spotting sections on the CDS or SSC exams. But the broader value is achieving absolute, unshakable precision in how you translate your thoughts into the world. When you control the structure, you control the message.
It all comes down to precision, which leads me to a final thought I want to leave you with, building right off that idea of translating reality. Think about how this ancient grammatical pact forces us to categorize the chaotic world around us.
Oh, this is fascinating.
Remember the earlier example? A flock of birds is flying.
Yeah.
By utilizing that singular is, we are wielding language to literally strip away the individuality of 100 different unpredictable living creatures just to create one single unified entity in our minds. A flock.
It's a profound psychological shortcut. We compress reality to understand it.
Exactly. So, as you navigate your week, ask yourself, how many other incredibly complex, messy things in our daily lives do we mentally compress into a singular is, just to make the overwhelming chaos of the world a little easier to process? Sometimes the most powerful illusions aren't hiding on a grammar test. They are embedded in how language teaches us to see the world.
And that is exactly why we dive deep.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.